I'm Russ Riesinger. Capitol Hill is a crime scene once again. This after a man rammed into two Capitol Hill police officers this morning, leaving one of them dead and the other injured. That story in just a moment, but first tonight, a missing persons advisory has been issued for a Billings baby. According to the Billings Police Department, 1-year-old Jackson Guy was taken by his non-custodial father, Ryan Dennis Guy. Jackson is approximately 30 inches long and 22 pounds with light hair and blue eyes, and he is believed to be in danger. Ryan's a 29-year-old white male who's 5 feet 9 inches tall, 145 pounds. He has blonde hair and blue eyes and may be driving a gold 2007 Saab 95 with a black front fender and Montana license plate CLZ 539. If you've got any information on Ryan or Jackson, you're asked to call 911 or the Billings Police Department at 657-8460. Well, a Capitol Hill police officer was killed, another injured after a man rammed into them with his car. They were stationed at a security checkpoint outside the Capitol, which is a crime scene again, less than 3 months after the January 6th insurrection. Skylar Henry is near the Capitol building with the latest tonight.
Law enforcement sources say the suspect in Friday's deadly attack just outside the Capitol is 25-year-old Noah R. Green. The driver was shot and killed after ramming a blue Nissan into two Capitol police officers before hitting a security barricade just 100 yards from the building. He then got out of the car with a knife in hand.
The suspect did start lunging toward U.S. Capitol police officers, at which time U.S. Capitol police officers fired upon the suspect.
Officials say the attacker managed to stab an officer before police shot him.
It is with a very, very heavy heart that I announce one of our officers has succumbed to his injuries.
The fallen officer, William Billy Evans, is an 18-year veteran of the force. A second Capitol police officer was injured and airlifted to a nearby hospital, while police and National Guard troops swarmed the area. The incident comes despite very tight security, nearly 3 months after supporters of then-President Trump stormed the Capitol. Representative Tim Ryan, who chairs the subcommittee that oversees the Capitol Police, is urging lawmakers to unite on bolstering security.
I think it's just a time for us to elevate the conversation, to be adults about how sensitive this is, how important it is to try to get this right, and it can't fall into the other political arguments that we're having.
Authorities still searching for motives say Green was not previously known to police or on any watch lists and appears to be a single actor. While the nation grieves again, President Biden ordered White House flags lowered to half staff. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Washington.
The injured Capitol officer was reported in stable and non-threatening condition this evening. Well, this weekend marks the 25th anniversary of Ted Kaczynski's arrest in Lincoln, Montana, which put an end to a 17-year manhunt for the domestic terrorist known as the Unabomber. Now, there have been numerous documentaries, movies, and shows produced about the events, but you've likely never heard our side. Tomorrow night, Q2 will premiere Covering Kaczynski, a look at how the world's biggest story came to our doorstep. Casey Conlon brings us a look inside.
We've all seen the sketch, seen the face, seen the atrocities that led to 3 deaths and dozens of other injuries. But for 17 and a half years, people only knew a pseudonym, and no one ever thought the actual Unabomber would turn up in a tiny Montana mountain town. So when news broke on April 3rd, 1996, that the FBI had arrested a man named Ted Kaczynski just south of Lincoln, the world's gaze turned to the Treasure State.
There was a TV on in the newsroom, CBS News breaking into programming with a special report.
Dan Rather reporting from CBS News World Headquarters in New York. Good afternoon. There has been a major break in the case of the so-called Unabomber.
The Unabomber suspect has been arrested in Lincoln, Montana, and they put his name up there, and my jaw just went.
I ran home for lunch in between class and turned on the TV. Peter Jennings broke in that they had found the Unabomber in Montana. I was like, what? And so then I immediately called into the station and, what's going on? What are we doing? And then I don't even think I ate lunch. I just packed up and ran to work after that.
Jay Cohn and James Rafferty had no idea when they woke up that day that they'd end up playing critical roles in the biggest news story Montana had ever seen. Cohn was the news director at KXLF in Butte and remembers 2 phone calls he didn't give a second thought about at the time.
The Freeman standoff was going on, and KXLF here in Butte had the uplink for CBS. So the network had called and said, we want to make sure there's an engineer there, the uplink is operating, we want to reserve it for tomorrow. And that was the only thing I could think why CBS would be interested that day.
Rafferty was a 23-year-old weekend photographer at KPAX in Missoula. After getting to the station once he saw the report, he talked his way into the car headed for Lincoln and will never forget the 36 hours that came next.
My daughter went on a school trip and they visited the museum, and I'm sitting at work and all of a sudden I get a text from her, and all it is her saying, "Is this you?" And I'm like, well, yes, Hannah, it is me, but why are you sending me frame grabs from 1996? Well, then right at the same time I get a text from her teacher with a picture of her pointing to it, and her teacher's like, "Did you know that your picture's up in this museum?" And I'm like, I had no idea.
Shannon Everts was in a KRTV rundown meeting when she heard the news. The Great Falls anchor's biggest role in the story wouldn't come for another 20 months.
The truck is coming down 10th Avenue South with the Unabomber cabin on the back with this unbelievable sunrise. And I get this shot and I'm just so excited. And then Dan Rather that night, he opened his whole newscast with the footage of the truck going down 10th Avenue South with the Unabomber cabin on the back.
It was a collaborative effort that showed MTN's real muscle, a statewide network of stations, each playing a part in one of the biggest stories of the century. And there was even a connection MTN didn't learn about until years later to the story's true protagonist, who put an end to nearly 2 decades of violence. We'll tell you about it tomorrow night. Casey Conlon for MTN News.
Thanks, Casey. Look forward to it. Covering Kaczynski premieres tomorrow night at 9 after the Final Four right here on Q2. You can also watch it throughout the weekend with the KTVQ streaming app for Roku and other devices. Well, the Montana Highway Patrol is investigating a fatal accident under the I-90 overpass in Billings. A pickup truck that crashed was discovered around 8 this morning under the bridge near Charlene Street. Billings Fire Department crews extricated the driver, who was dead. It was not immediately clear when the accident had happened or how long that truck had been under the bridge. Despite the pandemic, a local nonprofit organization and supporters have completed a 56-room apartment complex that will house low-income seniors here in Billings. Q2's Shaquille Cozart brings us a look.
Community members, partners, and dignitaries celebrated the completion and dedication of St. John's United Affordable Housing Project, Chapel Court. Speakers at the event included Mayor Bill Cole, St. John's United President and CEO David Trost, and video appearances from Senator Steve Daines and Governor Greg Gianforte. Chapel Court features a 56 one-bedroom apartment complex with a new building entrance, coffee shop, beauty shop, refresh, commons area, and new public restrooms. The facility will be available to those at least 62 years of age, making 60% of the area median income or below.
I hope that we see for the community a greater spotlight on the needs of seniors that are economically on the fringe. Hey, we need to continue to support people as they age healthier and longer in life.
Yeah, this was a tremendous team effort across so many segments of our Billings community, actually. Partners, the Montana Board of Housing awarded us the federal tax credits that we needed to really launch this forward. And then locally here, First Interstate Bank was a tremendous supporter of this effort.
In order to provide great quality, low-income senior living within our community. And that's our mission is from First Interstate Bank, is to partner with this type of project for our commitment to the community.
The organization has received millions of dollars of funding from partners and donations and is now releasing their people portion of their campaign for resident care.
We're $6.5 million into that $8 million goal for people. And so we're now calling on the public to help us raise that final $1.5 million so that we can fulfill that promise that we made to our campaign to raise $8 million for people.
I lived here for 13 years, and I've waited for this almost 2 years. And I've seen this built over here. See from the ground up. And I loved it. It's just like God just opened the doors and let me have this room, and it's just beautiful. I got a kitchen, dining room, and I got a bedroom, and I got a bathroom. And it's just really, and I can see over the rims, and it's just gorgeous.
Reporting in Billings, I'm Shaquille Kozart with MTN News.
Thank you, Shaquille. You can learn more about this story on ktvq.com. Well, many churches enjoyed Good Friday services in person today compared to having online services during Holy Week last year. Emmanuel Baptist Church in Billings had a normal turnout for its late afternoon and evening services. Like many churches, Emmanuel had online services last year. It started back with in-person services in August, and that makes Good Friday that much more special.
It's a time where we remember the sacrifice that Jesus made for us. Like, without the death of Jesus, without the sacrifice of Jesus laying down his life for you and me, we have no peace with God. And so it's a time to remember, but it's also a time to celebrate. The biggest difference was how we prepared the Lord's Supper. The people that prepared the Lord's Supper do it with masks and gloves. To be able to get hundreds of people back together again and singing praises to Jesus, like, man, that is amazing. And it's something that I miss dearly, and it was good to have back for sure.
Emmanuel Baptist does not have a mask or distancing requirement, but Pastor Hadel says all the seats do lead to some spacing for everyone. All right, turning to Chief Meteorologist Ed McIntosh. Ed, we've had Easters where there's been snow on the ground, and this isn't going to be one of them.
That's right. We've had very warm temperatures, and we're seeing more and more of that in the average springs. You can notice on the map that most of the country is trending towards warmer springs, except for North and South Dakota. They're actually trending a little bit cooler. But the average temperatures around Billings, we're seeing about 8 days more of above average temperatures during the spring months. It's running about 2 degrees warmer than it was 50 years ago. And we certainly saw some warm temperatures today. We tied the record at Livingston, and we're within 5 degrees of record high temperatures as we get into tomorrow afternoon, and close to some record highs again on Easter Sunday afternoon. Back to look at the weekend forecast and what's beyond that in a few minutes.
All right, thank you, Ed. Grab your baskets. Easter egg hunts are back in Billings this year. Here are just a few to check out tomorrow morning. The hunt will kick off at 11 a.m. at Shiloh United Methodist Church and another at the Chapel of Hope. The traditional South Park hunt starts at noon tomorrow. That's for kids up to 12 years old. It will also include an area for children with special needs. And the egg gathering at Pioneer Park begins at 2 p.m. tomorrow. Well, with the weather warming up and people wanting to get outside, there are plenty of options for outdoor activities. Registration is now open for the Billings Parks and Rec summer activities, and this even includes nearly 100 seasonal jobs. Those activities include whitewater rafting, rock climbing, and camping, just to name a few. And if there was any question that kids and parents are looking forward to summer, supervisors say registration is already up more than 138% over 2019. With the dozens of parks around Billings, there's summer activity for everyone.
We've got our Adventure Summer Camp series. That camp takes kids up to 40 a week. We do whitewater rafting, we go scuba diving, we go horseback riding.
It's a great way for them to explore the city, meet new people, be around some kids, have a chance to be outside and active.
And for more information on the camps and how to register for these activities, you can go to ktvq.com. Hugs, waves, smiles, and kindness. That's all part of a lemonade stand for some local Billings kids. Lemons in Love is set up at 6th and Howard. That stand featured lemonade, cookies, brownies, and a jelly bean count. Half the proceeds will go to the Yellowstone Valley Animal Shelter. And on top of that, it's been a good afternoon of learning for the kids.
Lemonade. My favorite color is also yellow, so I like the lemonade. Paying it for it and people just giving us money for the donations. Some people come just to get refreshed or help to donate.
We need to be colorful, we need to be vibrant in everything we do in our lives, and so Lemons in Love is about, just making sure that people are happy and, that they're smiling today. That's what matters.
KK says the plan is to continue with bigger fundraisers. Well, still to come on the MTN 10 o'clock news here on Q2, some kids get their shot at asking the hard-hitting questions to one of the top infectious disease doctors in the world. That story coming up next. And then a little later in sports, a worldwide pipeline has landed one of the nation's top players in Miles City, and she's helped put the Pioneers on the map. We'll hear from her coming up in just a bit.
From Montana's news leader,